To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. Local and Florida reaction this morning on To the Point in the aftermath of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Longtime News Channel 5 political analyst Brian Crowley will join me live. But first, supporters gathering on the causeway leading to Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate on Palm Beach off Southern Boulevard, and doing so at various points throughout the night. And we continue to look in on that scene. Meanwhile, the former president flew to New Jersey late yesterday after being checked by doctors in Pennsylvania. His campaign, in a note to staff, said he's in good spirits. This is video of the former president arriving at the Newark airport late last night, and then video from an online post from an aide who travels with Mr. Trump. The motorcade then traveled to his home in Bedminster, New Jersey. Late yesterday evening, I spoke via Zoom with Peter Feaman, the longtime local lawyer who is in Milwaukee, site of the Republican National Convention that begins tomorrow. He serves as Florida's GOP National Committeeman. Events and information were rapidly evolving when we spoke.
Well, my first thought is my condolences go out to the Trump family. My condolences go out to others. I understand others were injured in this incident, in the shooting incident. And I want to also give thanks to the Secret Service for their prompt reaction in what happened here. I understand they took out the perpetrator as well.
Late word coming to us from Secret Service, one person who attended dead, 2 critically injured. That will change, but that's the late word from Secret Service coming to us moments ago.
Okay. So we're here in Milwaukee, Michael, and all of a sudden security has ramped up in the last 2 hours like you cannot believe. I'm now seeing uniformed military personnel with their M16s or M18s or whatever it is they carry these days in full camo gear. The security here was tight before. Security now is beyond your wildest imagination. We were out having dinner and we almost could not get back to the hotel where we are, the Florida hotel where all the delegates are staying, because security was so tight. We had to actually drive down one-way roads to get here. We're just glad to be back to the hotel at this point. Everybody is on high alert. It's a very concerning situation. This is not America. It's not the America you and I want. And I think, Michael, we just got to tone down the rhetoric. We really do politically on both sides. But, you know, when the other side keeps saying that Mr. Trump is a threat to democracy, there's going to be lunatics out there. They're going to take that the wrong way, and they're going to do things like you saw today. So all of us have to tone down the rhetoric. Let's solve our disputes at the ballot box, not at the barrel of a gun.
The overarching release from leading officials this evening, including President Biden, was a forceful denunciation of any type of violence, noting that the former president should be able to hold a rally there or anywhere peacefully. Really is, in many ways, echoing, as are many others, what you're saying right now.
Yes, and Martin Luther King, I think, was the best example of nonviolent protest. And he led the way. He led a civil rights movement in all the right ways. Right now, we have people that have completely the wrong idea. Now, here in Milwaukee, we're going to make sure that what we do and say here does not encourage any more of this type of behavior. I don't think we ever did, but doesn't matter at this point. Everybody needs to tone it down. Let's talk policy, not personalities.
Mr. Feaman, as we sit here tonight, obviously the former president's health is paramount. The investigation goes on. Do you anticipate the convention will go on in full or be abbreviated? Could it happen if the former president didn't feel up to it, that it would go on without him? What is the sense there? We know that takes a back seat to health considerations and everything else, but what is your sense right now?
The sense here is that the convention is going to go on in full. And this will not impede what we intend to do. We haven't had a political convention in 8 years, and nothing is going to stop us now. We are full on. We're going to go forward, and we're going to conduct the business of the Republican National Committee here at the convention.
And certainly expect to see Donald J. Trump standing there in person, accepting the nomination and speaking to Republicans in a few days' time.
Goodness gracious, Michael, he was popular in this crowd before. He is now going to be accepted as almost like a war hero. This is going to be unbelievable.
Final thoughts, sir.
We have to get back to good civil political discourse. No more hyperbole that people are going to be Hitler and those kind of things. That we just can't have that in today's world.
And in fairness, many argue that that lesson needs to be learned by all sides, those on the left, those on the right, Republicans, Democrats, people who don't affiliate with the party in this country. Do you agree with that?
Of course, all sides. But I want to call out one particular side tonight, Michael, because that's what we've heard lately. We've heard the word Hitler being used. That's just wrong. That's just wrong, no matter who says it. No matter who says it. That kind of hyperbole must stop. Let's focus on policy, what's best for the American people. Let's go forward in a positive way, and then let the chips fall where they may in November.
Again, Florida GOP National Committeeman. We'll get to these statements in just a moment. Keep that one up with Ron DeSantis. We're getting reaction from Florida leadership from Ron DeSantis' office that he and the First Lady of Florida, Casey DeSantis, praying for Donald Trump and his family. From Senator Rick Scott, that statement coming in, Florida Senator Rick Scott posting on X saying, quote, "It's a miracle, in part, that President Trump's alive and well, but absolutely inexcusable." The senator from Florida, Rick Scott, said that a deranged would-be assassin had a direct line of sight to the former president, a leading candidate for president of the United States. He's called for an investigation into the attempted assassination, and indeed those calls are echoing across Capitol Hill. Florida's senior U.S. Senator, Republican Marco Rubio, also on the Veep shortlist, releasing a statement saying, praying for President Trump and all those attending the rally in Pennsylvania today. And local Democratic Congresswoman Lois Frankel describing her thoughts after the attempted assassination.
Political violence has no place in our country, period. Regardless of your political affiliation or your belief, we all have to emphatically demand that we respect differences of opinion and that violence is not the way to solve our differences.
Joined now by our longtime News Channel 5 political analyst, Brian Crowley. And just a note that I wanted to point out, I interviewed Mr. Feaman within a few hours after this attempted assassination occurred. Obviously, things changing dynamically. Since then, we learned that, in fact, President in good spirits. He's now in Bedminster. The convention does go on, absolutely. He will be there to accept the nomination. All of that was coming into place as we conducted that interview in those first frantic hours after the attempted assassination, as described, including the scene in Milwaukee, site of the Republican National Convention for Mr. Feaman, who's from our area, a noted local lawyer, GOP national chair. So the convention goes on. Brian, first thoughts this morning.
Well, my first thoughts are that, with some exceptions, fortunately not from Florida, there have been members of Congress who have said horrible things this morning, but not the Florida congressional delegation has been, very thoughtful. But we sort of have our thoughts and prayers moment, and you need more than that. It's not what you do immediately after a crisis like this. It's what you do in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. So talking about toning everything down, well, our leaders need to do that on both sides. When somebody is going way out of line, too often it's simply accepted by leadership. We need leadership to call in that member who's going a little off the wall and sit them down in an office side. And like the principal with a kid in high school, you call them into the office and say, we're not doing that anymore. We need that. We need to stop with the harsh rhetoric. We need to talk about, as Peter said, talk about policy, how to move forward, debate issues hotly. You can do that, but it shouldn't lead to moments like we had yesterday. It's horrible that this happened. It's horrible that somebody died, that two others were critically injured. I mean, and for all the criticism the Secret Service is getting this morning, that Secret Service sniper who took the bad guy out pretty quickly probably saved a lot of lives.
Brian, continue your thought about the tone and tenor that inevitably one would presume, changes. I'm not talking about who wins or loses in November, but the tone and tenor of our politics and of the campaign at a deeper level than win-lose November. Continue your thoughts there, because, again, as you said, we're hearing it on this Sunday morning, and very restrained. In fact, many Congress people in our area who would typically be pretty quick to comment are right now saying now's the time just to offer our prayers for the victim, for the health of former President Donald Trump, for the two people critically injured at last word, and beyond that have not wanted to say much. Do you think it changes the dynamic much moving forward?
Well, no, I don't. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of talk over the next 48 hours or so about how we need to do things better, and I think everyone will pretty much go back to doing the same kind of a rhetoric that helped lead to this, and it's terrible, but I just don't, frankly, based on a lot of what I've been seeing on social media and everything this morning, including from members of Congress, you know, there's not much stepping back in some quarters, and there really needs to be very firm leadership on both sides that says it's not acceptable in our party and in our nation to have this kind of extreme rhetoric that potentially leads to this kind of violence.
And again, we do not know motivation, of course. We may never learn the precise motivation of this 20-year-old gunman shot by Secret Service as he opened fire on the presidential rally in Pennsylvania yesterday. Shock and trepidation, they're often overused words. They're not today in this country. I've heard from a lot of friends and family, and not since 1981 when then President Ronald Reagan was shot by John Hinckley have we seen an attempted assassination in this country, and all of us are trying to get our bearings this morning.
And again, I think it's going to become very, very important for voters to decide that they're not accepting people that talk with extreme rhetoric. You know, I always talk about it goes back to the voters, and it does go back to the voters. If you're willing to elect somebody, whatever the political office is, who's willing to talk in extreme ways, who's willing to, you know, personally condemn people, who's willing to kind of use close to violent rhetoric, and that's acceptable to you, to somebody to hold public office, it goes back to the voters. So if you want to end this kind of rhetoric, if you want to go back to what the Founding Fathers intended, debate issues strongly, argue, you know, but then at times compromise and reach a decision.
We'll have much more with you, Brian, on the other side of the break, and we appreciate, as always, your analysis and insight after many decades of covering the local, state, and national political scene. Still to come, Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw speaking with me this morning about security here at home around Mar-a-Lago.